So here's the shark report. A shark is a type of species that lives in the sea. A shark is one of the largest sea creatures. There are 350 types of shark. A shark is shaped like a torpedo. Sandpaper is like a shark body. Elastic is in shark body instead of bones. A shark can go up to 8 meters. Sharks live in oceans. Sharks have to swim, but if they don't swim, they will sink or suffocate. Harmless sharks eat plants, but harmful sharks eat live meat. Sharks have up to 42 pups. Some sharks lay eggs and some have them live. Some sharks have to defend the pups. Okay, so there's a report produced in a genre-based program with scaffolding that I'll show you later. So one problem when we first introduce the ideas would be that they might be taken up by someone who thinks, okay, great, we can get back to traditional pedagogy now. We're actually teaching something for a change. Now we'll teach the genre in a traditional way. So then what you might do is focus on the structure. That's the scaffolding that the student used to design this report. And give a lecture on the report genre, a monologic lecture explaining what the report genre was. Good morning, class. Here we have an example of a report. This genre is used to make generalizations about things in our world. It's a very important kind of writing in science. You can see that it starts with a title. It begins by classifying the animal you're writing about. Then you can see there's a section describing how it looks from the inside and outside, its size, shape, color, consistency, and so on. You can see that it's mostly being and having verbs in this section. Then there's information about its habits. Here we find more action verbs. Okay, now I want you to write on your own now and write a report like this on one of the things we've been studying in our unit work this week. Make sure it looks just like this example and organize your information in the same way. Off you go. No interaction, guidance in the context of shared experience, just a lecture. Right? One problem. Then, for the progressivist teachers, most of their teaching is a little quiz show game. Guess what's in my head? You ask the students a question and hope that 2 or 3 of the brightest students will know the answer to that question. And if not, you adjust the question and then try to give a little more support and help and ask it again and again. Okay, and then when they guess the answer to that question, what's in your head, you haven't taught it to them, but you know, they're discovering it for themselves. Then you move on to another question. So, hi boys and girls, how are we this morning? Today we're going to do some writing. Here's an example of one kind of writing you might like to try, unless you're busy with something else. What kind of writing do you think this is? Who do you think might do writing of this kind? Where would it be useful? What's the first thing you notice about this piece of writing, and so on, and so on, and so on? Okay, this is not review now. It's not like you're just catching up, reviewing what you've studied about the genre, but the idea here is that unless students discover things for themselves, they won't learn them. I've heard Ken Goodman say exactly that to me. If you tell somebody something, they won't learn it. Some of my colleagues said in response to that, what they were going to do is go up to Ken Goodman and say, hi, my name's Jim. What's my name? Okay, so I'm being extreme now, but this is not far wrong. We're working in junior secondary now. This is exactly how our history and science teachers teach, hour after hour after hour. Traditional progressive approaches may lurch in and out of fashion during a teaching career, often resulting in an eclectic classroom practice. I don't know if you know Robin Alexander's wonderful tour of Pedagogy Around the World, fantastic book everyone needs to read, but here's one part of the book where he finds this little process writing, process manifesto on a classroom in Michigan. The important issues to me: process orientation versus product orientation, teaching students versus teaching programs, teacher as facilitator versus teacher as manager, developing a set of strategies versus mastering a set of skills, celebrating approximation versus celebrating perfection, respecting individual growth versus fostering competition, capitalizing on student strengths versus emphasizing students' weaknesses, promoting independence in learning versus dependence on the teacher. And this is the side of the angels over here, and here are the devils, bad guys. Highly polarized. discussion. And as we entered in, we would be characterized by people on this side as traditional, and by the people on this side as progressive. So we were hated by everyone. Because we weren't on the pendulum, coming from somewhere else. Bernstein, I couldn't understand the volatility of the debates around these issues until studying and reading and rereading Bernstein about what's going on here. So he comments on this pendulum, traditional, progressive, as follows. The conflicting pedagogies have their origin within the fractions of the middle class, new and old middle class in his terms. And so an unreflecting institutionalization of either pedagogy will not be to the advantage of the lower working class. So we're looking essentially there at middle class struggle over control of education. By 1984, we had confirmed this sad picture in Australia, affecting migrant and indigenous students as well as working class ones. And we're looking for ways to get off the pendulum and design a pedagogy that would work for all students regardless of their social background. And another haunting quote from Bernstein, commenting on the hegemony really of progressive education in Australia by the time we began in the early 80s. As we move from the written word to the authentic word of the child, it's quite likely that the time dimension of the transmission is changing from the past to the present. If that is so, we must make very certain that the new pedagogy does not lock the child into the present, in his or her present tense. There's a danger that the new educational pull, with its emphasis on the oral, might well in fact do that, unless we seek to understand systematically how to create a concept which can authenticate the child's experience and give him or her those powerful representations of thought that he or she is going to need in order to change the world outside. Okay, so I put in bold this strong comment on valuing where every child comes from, but acknowledging that you're going to take them somewhere. That's valorized in the school. So we set to work, determined to do better. So I'll talk a little bit about the curriculum genres that we evolved in different stages now, so you can see what we were thinking about trying to institutionalize in the pedagogy the guiding principles from Halliday and Painter's work. And also, if you know Vygotsky's zone of proximal development and the neo-Vygotskian notion of scaffolding, and it's very compatible with what we're trying to do. It influenced me, but didn't really influence John Rothery, who was doing all the creative work in terms of designing pedagogy. So it's worth perhaps revisiting this famous quote, zone of proximal development, it's the distance between the actual development level as determined by independent problem solving and the level of potential development is determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. Let me emphasize that last phrase, which I've noticed getting elided, particularly in American constructivist work with its emphasis on peer-peer interaction. Okay, so the asymmetry is very clear in Vygotsky, as it is in Halliday and Painter. I was recently consulting in Ottawa with Natasha Artemeva, who knows Russian, a Russian scholar now working in Canada. Vygotsky apparently actually wrote smarter. I don't know. That's in the American translation seemed to be not politically correct or something. They changed it to more capable.